Hello and welcome to the Administration and Human Resources Short Courses Student Information Session. With me today, I have Chief Academic Officer Iona McKinney. Iona, welcome.
Hi James, great to be here. Really looking forward to talking about this group of short courses that we're making available to students.
Look, it is, and look, I think what's great about these is there's applications in a whole variety of businesses, I think the application of the short courses as well. Whether it be as perhaps a series of standalone short courses that you might do in a role that you're already in, or perhaps in conjunction with a qualification you've already got, or even towards a pathway. I think towards a greater qualification as well. So in saying that, let's have a look at the four individual skill sets and, of course, four short courses that students can choose to do, or they may, in fact, choose to do them all together. And in saying that, over to you.
So this group of short courses are really great for people who are wanting to work in an operations um, role in an organisation, or may already be on those people that want to develop their skills in human resources, but also team management. So the courses are really broad, and they introduce students to a range of different skills, and a range of different things that we do in a whole lot of roles, which we'll talk about at the moment. I think one of the most exciting things about this group of short courses is that they're all open entry. So students with any background, of course, are able to enter into the courses and develop their skills and knowledge in these areas. Of course, we do have some entry requirements, as we always do, but they are open entry courses. So this group of short courses introduce a whole range of things, as I mentioned before. So they introduce maintaining business and financial records, which is an important day-to-day function in every organisation. For administrative roles, human resources, even when we're managing teams, we often have to maintain those records. So we also look at, in our payroll administrator skill set, we take a deep dive into payroll specific things that we need to do when we're managing a payroll. We look at team and performance management, and we also look at managing those human resource functions. We know recruitment and onboarding of staff is an incredible process, and it's an incredibly important process for all businesses and all organisations. So that human capital management aspect of human resource functions is also something that we need to take into account as we're recruiting and onboarding people. And of course, industrial relations, which is which gives us a great grounding in things like fair work and enterprise bargaining agreements and superannuation and reporting and all of that sort of thing as well. So, as a high level view, that's what that's what makes up this group of short courses. And of course, students are able to study one of them, or two of them, or three of them, or even all of them, and they're able to complete each one of those skill sets as a standalone course.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think that's sort of something to keep in mind. But when we look at them all together, I mean, there's certainly some reasoning by grouping these skill sets together, because they certainly complement each other in many different respects. Sort of in particular, I think sort of the human resources and payroll administrator skill sets. It's really, I think, important to sort of get a bit of understanding as to perhaps where those payroll functions fit into kind of that greater, I suppose, area of application by way of human resources, and essentially sort of what impact it's going to have. Now, each of these skill sets is made up of a number of different units. So let's have a bit of a look at those and explore some information, I suppose, some detail as to what's included in each of the short courses, and some of the reasoning behind the inclusion of those units.
So often we might be thinking about entering the workforce, or we might be thinking about developing and expanding our skill and our knowledge in a particular area. So each one of these skill sets or short courses, which is a skill set, is delivered over 12 or 14 weeks, as we can see here on the screen. And the administrative skill set, which is the first one I'll talk about, really takes that deep dive into business administration. So we look at managing financial records and maintaining business resources, how to organise schedules, and also purchasing. Um, and they're often those key skills that we do when we're working for a small or medium business in an administrative assistant type role. The human resources advisor skill set takes up all of those things that we think about when we're working in a human resources environment, or we're wanting to enter working into that environment. Um, it's human resources management is an area where we know that a lot of people often say, well, gee, payroll really gets, it just beats me. And where do I go to find out this? And how do I do performance management? So this skill set actually introduces a lot of those skills and those concepts. So we look at managing and employing in managing employees and our industrial relations and our structure for our labour force here in Australia. So things like legislation and the Fair Work Act. We look at managing recruitment and onboarding because, as I mentioned just before, getting the right people and retaining those people is incredibly important. But we also look at induction as part of that. We look at managing payroll, which directly relates to our payroll administrator skill set as well. So it's a great introduction to managing a payroll. We also look at coordinating human resource functions and processes because when we're working in human resources, it's not just about um, hiring, and it's not just about performance management, it's also about the wider organisation and the well-being of the organisation as well. So we look at health and wellness planning, for example. We look at a whole range of human resource functions. So, and then of course we look at coordinating remuneration and employee benefits, which again is aligned to our payroll administrator skill set. And those two units manage payroll and can coordinate remuneration and employee benefits are really great stepping off points to actually focus on payroll and developing our payroll skills. So our payroll administrator skill set is structured in such a way that we look at those different aspects of payroll that we need to undertake, and students actually experience utilising a payroll when they enrol in that payroll administrator skill set. So students utilise KeyPay to complete the modules in the unit. So there's real hands-on experience of truly managing a payroll, utilising payroll software as well. So we look at in the payroll administrator skill set, building on from the human resource advisor, um, processing salary packaging arrangements and additional allowances, how we manage superannuation from a payroll perspective, processing complex employee terminations in payroll, and interpreting and implying knowledge of industrial relations as well as taxation. So as I mentioned before, we actually do utilise payroll software to complete the payroll for students to be able to complete the payroll administrator skill set, which is a really exciting opportunity to truly develop our payroll skills. The other of course, I was about to say, of course. The other skill set that we have grouped here is about team management, because all of these things that we've talked about and all of these other skill sets that we've talked about, all short courses, really link in with team management. So we need to be able to communicate with our teams and manage our team's performance. We also need to look at managing human resources, and we need to look at how we lead and facilitate teams as well. So We cover all of those things in the team management skill set. So each skill set, as we can see here, has a different time period. So students will study the administrative skill set over 12 weeks, the human resources advisor skill set over 14, the introduction to team management over 12 weeks, and 12 weeks for the payroll administrator skill set.
Excellent. Now, in looking at these units and perhaps what opportunities they offer, and obviously where in industry they're going to be aligned, we've got some roles up here in relevant occupations that come by way of these particular skill sets. So, as you can see, we've kind of got certainly those who'd like to move into that administrative and business management side. There's a whole range of roles by way of, say, sales administrative assistant, dispatch administrative assistant, even administration support at an entry level, should people choose to go down that path. Even things by way of EA, so executive assistants, even marketing administrative assistants and things like that. Now, of course, there's the other option whereby you would take on the full suite of courses in short courses and skill sets, being in mind that you'd like to kind of go down that human resources and payroll function where there's a whole range of roles, which of course are available to you. And we certainly know with the emphasis on organisations' importance and the amount of importance that they allocate towards human capital and human capital development, and of course managing that aspect of the business, in simple terms, people, those roles in payroll and human resources functions are becoming more important and prominent than ever. So certainly with respect to these sort of skill sets, what we're looking at is things sort of, from payroll officers, and we've got some information about that below, to payroll assistants, recruitment advisors, human resource managers, human resources assistants, whatever it may be. So you can really kind of see a really broad breadth of roles that these skill sets can apply to, depending on whether you do one by itself or, of course, whether or not you choose to bundle all four together. But so just getting back to that idea of payroll officer, I mean, just to give you a bit of insight in the sort of demand that we're seeing in the industry at the moment, from SEEK just this month, so that's October 2021, we've got the average salary of 75,000 with a really, really high job satisfaction of 4 out of 5. And again, I think a lot of that also comes back to that idea of interacting with people, and then the human capital certainly within that business environment. And that's why it's also that linkage between that team management skill set that we've got there as well, because not only do you have that ability to, I think, manage those payroll and human resources functions, but you're also in a position to develop those skills when it comes to interacting with other elements of the business and essentially working with a team that's likely to be around you. Now, we've had a look at the units themselves. How are they brought to life by way of learning materials?
The learning materials for each of these skill sets contain a number of common things, if you like. So students will have access to textbooks and workbooks. Students will also experience self-directed learning activities such as research and project tasks. The payroll administrator skill set does include recorded tutorials for students to be able to develop more knowledge and as instructional video for practicing payroll as well. The other skills, the other short courses or skill sets that we've been talking about, so human resources, team management, and the administrative assistant course, all have video available for students to be able to watch as well, that directly relates to the topics that they're studying. Also provided for students is a learner guide and additional practice activities as well, so students can develop that deeper understanding of the topics that they're studying and the opportunity to practice what they're studying, and also to create workplace documents as well that we would typically create in the workplace. So, as I said, there's a very, very broad range of learning materials that's made available to students in these courses, and there is no additional cost for purchasing texts or learner guides or any other material to study the courses.
Excellent. Now, really as an extension of learning materials themselves, we have the assessment functions that students are exposed to throughout these series of skill sets. Talk to us about those.
So throughout the short course or the skill set the students studying, they'll practice a number of things with self-directed learning activities. So assessment here at Mentor Education is literally an extension of your learning. So as you complete the self-directed learning activities, you'll actually be developing the skills and the knowledge to actually undertake your assessment tasks. So we strongly um, um, advocate to students that they should actually be completing those self-directed learning activities. The assessments themselves are made up of a number of different types of assessment tasks, and commonly students will come across two or three of these types of tasks that we can see here on the screen. So a student may complete some short answer questions in a project. They may complete some long answer questions, some multiple choice questions, and create a presentation. They may undertake some research about a specific topic and then respond to some case studies and answer some short answer questions. So there is always a mix of different types of assessment tasks in each assessment, but it would be very rare for a student to come across every one of these that are on here. Commonly, it's two or three of these different types of tasks that students will be asked to complete.
Excellent. Now, by way of getting access to the course, what I thought I'd do is just briefly talk about the online learning experience. So in order to access any of the skill sets or the short courses, students will do that by way of the online learning management system, which they access through their student portal. Now, in order to access that, there's really just a couple of key things that you require. So the first is access to a laptop or desktop computer, a strong and reasonable internet connection, and then, of course, on that desktop or laptop computer, you're also going to want to have access to a browser. So through the browser, you can actually access anything and everything you need by way of your learning materials, your online textbooks, and then, of course, your assessments there as well. Now, one of the great things about it, of course, being on the browser is that if you do have access to a smart device by way of, say, a phone or a tablet or whatever it may be, you're also in a position to perhaps access your learning materials, your reading materials or presentations or whatever's included in that particular skill set. And you might choose to do that in transit, or you might choose to do your reading in bed or whatever it may be. But getting back to that initial point, you're certainly going to want to have access to a laptop or desktop computer so that you can complete your assessments. Now, another great thing, of course, about the online learning experience is that you can access the learning management system by way of your student portal 24 hours a day. So it's really about making sure that you're upskilling and developing your competencies in these areas. You're in a position to kind of make that fit in with anything and everything that we've got going on in life. And that, of course, could be looking after a family, working full time, all of the above, kind of making that fit in. So again, flexibility certainly something to be mindful of. And I think one of the real benefits when it comes to engaging in the online learning experience. Now, I think really as an extension as well of the online learning experience is the support functions that students are exposed to throughout the whole process, from the really from the very beginning till the time that they graduate. Now, starting at the very beginning, to give you a bit of insight into what support functions are available at Mentor Education, the first group of, or team, I should say, that you'll get exposure to is the education and advice team. They're in a position to sit down with you well, certainly over the phone and via email and whatever it may be, and talk to you about what it is that you're currently doing, where it is that you'd like to go, and then identify what's going to be the most appropriate education solution for you based on what it is that you want to achieve. And in this case, it may very well be one or all of the skill sets that we've identified as part of this administration and human resources short course suite. Now, the next group or team that you get exposure to by way of support, of course, once you've enrolled, is the Student Support Officer team. And they're here to help you with a whole range of things. And it could be troubleshooting or supporting you with access to your learning management system, doing password resets, or even setting up appointments with the education, training and assessment team, who I'll hand on over to Iona now to talk to us about what support functions are available to students by way of the education, training and assessment team throughout their course, because arguably it's probably the most important pillar that you'll, or resource I should say, that you're going to be tapping into when it comes to completing your qualification.
So across our study journey, if you like, from the time that we enroll in our course until the time that we graduate and complete or complete and graduate from our course, we go through a number of needs for support. So we may actually have enrolled and we may be feeling that we need a little support, or we might need some clarification about things. Um, and so and as we move through our course, we might have specific assessment questions or specific questions about self-directed activities, or even the course as a whole. So here at Mentor Education, our education and training team um, provide that support in a range of different ways. So students are able to call in via the 1300 number that we have here on the screen between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday to Friday and asked to speak to their educator or trainer for their course. Um, or alternately, students are able to make an appointment with their educator for their course or trainer for their course, excuse me, to have some time set aside on a one-to-one basis. So we really encourage our students here at Mentor Education to communicate with us um, and and reach out, because we can't know that a person needs support unless they tell us. There's a range of other support measures that we make available through the education and training team and through our registrar's office as well. So students can actually access support for software setup and installation for those courses that have software that students will utilise as part of their study. Also for the learning management system and questions about the learning management system. So how do I submit my assessment? I can't see where to put it. Things like that. But also the other options that are available to students, because we understand that life does happen. And we also understand that life is very much a changing thing at the moment out there in the big wide world on a day-to-day basis. So at the moment, we have a fee amnesty in place until the 1st of February 2022, where when there's no additional charges for course extensions, for resubmissions or remarking, or for those additional one-on-one support sessions. We also do make available to students intensive support sessions for those students that have additional learning needs. And those additional intensive support sessions are not charged for.
Excellent. Now, I've put together a series of questions that we often get asked by students. And what I thought I'd do is actually just go through those. And the first one is, can I get government funding? And the short answer to that is no. So all of our courses are self-funded by students themselves. But that said, they're set at a price that's designed to be really affordable. And also, should you desire, we also have payment plans and options available. And of course, if you've got any questions about that, the best thing to do is speak with one of the education advice team members who can work you through all the options that are available to you. Now, you can start at just about any time. And what we say, look, is if you can get an enrolment into us through our online enrolment portal, which is designed to be really easy, you'll be up and running in your course within 24 hours. But to be fair, usually the time frame can be a little bit shorter than that as well. Yes, it is all included. So anything and everything from access to your online textbooks to your assessments, everything's included with the enrolment fee itself. Now, the course is nationally recognised, or the skill sets, I should say, are nationally recognised in all states and territories around Australia. We made mention earlier that there's no prerequisites to the course, to the skill set, so they are open entry. But that said, it's best to have a reasonable command of English language and also reasonable numeracy skills as well. But if you've got any questions about that, again, speak with the education advice team members and they can guide you through any questions you might have about that particular issue. And how long do people usually take to finish? Well, it depends on which of the skill sets you decide to do. As we saw, we had 12 weeks, 14 weeks, and 12 weeks. So they're kind of the timeframes that you'd like to have in mind when it comes to completing that course. Now, that's not to say if you can dedicate a little bit more time each and every week, you may finish a little bit quicker, or you may be in a position where you have to put your course on hold for one reason or another, as we mentioned earlier. So it'll eventually sort of take you a little bit longer. But yeah, really, those timeframes that I just stipulated are the ones that you want to have in mind when it comes to the time frame around surrounding the completion of each of those courses. Now, Mentor Education's been delivering online education in the business, accounting and finance space since 2003. And in that time, one of our, I think the focus really as us as a training provider has been not just the delivery of education, but also a focus on student outcomes. And we've got some information up here which reflected some of our student outcomes from last year, which we're really proud of. And a lot of that, I think, in many respects, is derived from our commitment towards support and what it is that we try to offer students throughout that process of taking on education. And I'm going to hand on over to you to talk to us about what some of these numbers mean.
Thanks, James. So, in essence, every year the National Centre for Vocational Education and Research undertake a national survey of all students in Australia. Um, and what we can see here on the screen is what our students said about us in 2020. And we're eagerly anticipating what our students are going to say about us in 2021, as the results for 2021 should be coming out soon. But our commitment to our students is exemplified in what our students say about us. So, 92% of our graduates were employed or enrolled in further study after training. 91.6% of students were satisfied with the overall quality of the training. And 90.2% of students were satisfied with their assessment. And 86.5% would recommend Mentor as a training provider. So, every day here at Mentor Education, we really strive to support our students to achieve their goals and their aspirations. Um, and and the results from the student outcome survey certainly highlight that our effort is reflected in what our students achieve.
Now, if you'd like more information about what it is that we talked about today, or you'd like to enrol in the course, the best thing to do is head on over to the website. Okay, and there you'll be able to view any of the skill sets course pages that we've talked about, or obviously the full group there as well. And that's available at mentor.edu.au. And there you'll also be able to download a course guide, and that'll have anything and everything that we've talked about today, plus more. So there's lots of details and information for you. Otherwise, email us direct. So courseconsultant@mentor.edu.au, and that'll put you directly in contact with one of the education advice team members. And you can ask them any questions, you can request a course guide, whatever it may be. So you can set up that contact direct. Otherwise, give them a call. So 1300 306 146, and you can speak directly with the education advice team on the phone. And again, they can answer any questions or provide you with all the information that you need. Or if none of those options work, jump onto the website again, and there's a live instant messaging chat function where you can instant message directly with our education advice team based here in Melbourne, between 9 and 5 Melbourne and Sydney time. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, James. It's been great talking about this group of short courses today.
Excellent. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. We hope you found this session really beneficial and informative. And if you, as always, what we say is excite your potential. We look forward to seeing you as students soon, and we'll catch you next time. See you, everybody.